This presentation is intended for people with MS who are having some challenges in the workforce but would like to continue working. I'll provide an overview of some of the laws that are available that may allow people with MS to stay in the workforce longer than than might otherwise be possible. Specifically, I'm going to discuss the Family Medical Leave Act, which is federal law, and then I'm going to describe Colorado's new Family Medical Leave Insurance Law, which is a sea change the in that it's going to will provide paid leave for most Coloradans, and that's typical of a new wave of state laws. And I'm also going to talk about the Americans with Disabilities Act, at least briefly. And then finally, I'm going to suggest a strategy using private disability insurance to support a reduced work schedule. So by way of background, it's important to know that most employers do not tolerate many absences. Vocational experts say that more than one absence per month will usually result in termination. And this is a particular challenge for people with MS who may miss work for a variety of reasons, including the need for treatment, as well as exacerbations or just so-called bad days where symptoms flare. Fortunately, there are some legal protections. The Family Medical Leave Act, or FMLA, provides eligible employees unpaid but protected leave, meaning that they won't lose their jobs, to care for themselves and close family members, and also to get continued medical insurance during that period of time for up to 12 weeks of leave in a 12-month period. Unfortunately, only some employees are protected by the FMLA, again, which is federal law. Generally, only public employees and employees of relatively large employers are protected, those with employers with 50 or more employees. Also, people recently hired aren't protected. The employee must have worked at least 24 hours per week and have worked for at least 12 months. Some states, as I've mentioned, have enacted legislation to create state paid family medical leave insurance, which includes cash benefits for people who need to be absent from work. And as of 2023, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Puerto Rico, Rhode Island, Washington, and Washington, D.C. have created paid family medical leave programs, and many other states have pending legislation. I'm going to be talking about Colorado's law in particular, which begins protecting people in 2024. As I mentioned, it's a sea change for people who may need to be absent for medical reasons. Colorado workers beginning in 2024 are eligible for up to 12 weeks of paid time off when needed for medical reasons. All Colorado workers are protected except federal employees, some local government employees, and self-employed people who opt out. But importantly, self-employed people may choose to participate, and for many people with MS, this is probably a good idea. For employees who are eligible for paid leave, are eligible for paid leave after earning $2,500. So it's the more people will be eligible sooner than under the FMLA, but the job protection doesn't begin until after 6 months. But again, that's much better than the federal FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act. The amount of benefits an eligible employee can receive is based on the average work week income. The maximum weekly benefit that someone can receive is $1,100 for 2024. This table provides examples of benefit payments for different weekly wages in 2024. So if you can see where you are on this chart and think about how much you make in a week, and then you can sort of read over here and see what the weekly benefit would be, again, for up to 12 weeks. So for those eligible, the FMLA or the better law, so FMLA, FAMLI in Colorado, Family Medical Leave Insurance, can be used in a variety of ways. It can be used to make sure you don't get fired for seeking treatments, such as monthly infusions of Tysabri or to get physical therapy. It can be used in the event of exacerbations or MS flares. They can cause absences for weeks at a time. In my experience, many people with MS describe significant symptom variability, so-called bad days, when function basically keeps people home all day, but not quite an MS exacerbation. The FMLA can provide protection for this kind of intermittent leave. And finally, it can be used if you're having performance issues at work. In that case, you might seek time off through the FMLA or FAMLI for additional symptom management, evaluations, and to consider other options such as workplace accommodations or applying for disability benefits. Another strategy that can help some people stay in the workforce much longer than they would otherwise be able to is to use partial private disability benefits. So not everyone has this. For people who have private disability insurance, there's a subset who have partial disability benefits available. And where that's available, people can reduce their hours, say from 40 hours a week to 30 hours a week, and then get paid for those 10 hours that they're not working at 60% of their former salary. And that can be an indefinite solution for people who are having trouble making it through a 40-hour work week, but could handle a smaller number of hours, such as 30 hours per week. Again, not every policy will provide for that. Not everyone has private disability insurance in any case. Now I'm going to turn to the Americans with Disabilities Act, or the ADA, which is enforced by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission and applies to employers with at least 15 employees. According to the ADA, employers must make reasonable accommodations for people with disabilities. And the critical words reasonable accommodation are not defined within the ADA, but some examples are provided. It includes making physical changes to render facilities accessible, or it might include restructuring jobs, offering part-time or modified work schedules, offering to reassign people, and to modify existing equipment or acquiring new equipment as needed to accommodate a disability. For those looking for suggestions about what might help them in the workforce, I highly recommend the Job Accommodation Network. There's live support. In other words, you can call people. It's paid for by the Department of Labor and includes many possibly helpful accommodations. You can look up accommodations by disease. So you can look up MS, and I've got some of the suggestions there that are in the website, that are on the website rather, including flexible schedules, rest breaks, being allowed to work remotely, or having a modified workspace. And then within each of those suggestions, you can click more deeply, and it will describe. So in this, I happen to click on flexible schedule, and it explains how that might work. So I won't read this slide, but maybe just the end of it. Examples of a flexible schedule would be adjusting starting and ending times of the workday, combining regularly scheduled breaks to create one extended break, etc. And this might be useful for people who have fatigue and need to take naps, as an example. So how to request a reasonable accommodation is covered on this slide. The employee must inform the employer that there's a need for an accommodation or a change at work, and this should trigger an interactive process, which refers to an information gathering process. And the EEOC says that the interactive process must be flexible and may involve communication from a person's clinician. There's only one statutory limit on whether a particular accommodation is reasonable. An employer need not accommodate an employee with a disability if doing so would cause the employer undue hardship. With or without an accommodation, the employee must be able to perform the essential functions of the position. For example, if an employee cannot meet production goals of a position, even with an accommodation, he or she may not be protected by the ADA. If an accommodation is denied, you have a few options. You can contact, probably the most practical one is to contact the EEOC. The phone number's here. And sometimes the EEOC would refer people if there are state agency that should be involved, but it's a good place to start. All states have civil rights laws. So as I mentioned, the ADA applies to employers with 15 employees or more. So if you work for a smaller employer, it may be that you have to contact your state civil rights division. So for example, that's the Colorado Civil Rights Division. For more information about reasonable accommodations, I recommend going to the mscenter.org, which is the Rocky Mountain MS Center's website, and searching for on-the-job accommodation resources. It's the first resource listed. So to conclude, a variety of strategies exist that can help people with workplace limitations stay in the workforce. The FMLA in Colorado is much stronger. FAMLI can protect against getting fired for absences related to MS. Some people have private disability insurance that can provide income to support a reduced work schedule. And the ADA and analogous state laws can ensure that people get needed accommodations. Thank you.